Hi, Dr. Martin Rutherford here, Power Health, with this week's question. The question of the week, and it's rather long, so you'll have to forgive me. I have to use the paper to be able to remember it. Is I have been diagnosed with hypothyroidism. My antibodies came back negative. I'm interested in finding the root cause of my condition. Is it automatic to rule out Hashimoto's if my results come back negative for antibodies? So the short answer to that is no. It is not automatic to rule out Hashimoto's. You know, this is a great question, and I probably get this question a couple of times a week in office. We do complimentary consultations here, and we just get a ton of people come in with Hashimoto's or conditions that have Hashimoto's. The Hashimoto's is an autoimmune problem, okay? And the evolution of understanding of autoimmunity in and of itself is slow and grinding. My mentor, Dr. Datis Karazian, is the gentleman who brought Hashimoto's to light. He wrote a book called Why Do I Still Have Thyroid Symptoms When My Lab Tests Are Normal? And that includes a normal TPO enzyme and anti-thyroglobulin enzyme that tests for Hashimoto's. And that book came out 10 years ago, and we were dealing with that for 10 years before that. And so Hashimoto's has gone from there's no such thing as Hashimoto's to now the Mayo Clinic says that Hashimoto's is causing 85 to 95% of all hypothyroidism. You know, full disclosure, you walk into this office, you are Hashimoto's until proven innocent. And people come in with this question, but my lab tests are normal. So we have a assessment questionnaire that we have people fill out, and in it there's 2 sections on it, on hypothyroid symptoms and hyperthyroid symptoms. That patient fills it out, and they have 15 or 16 or 19 or 20 out of 20 symptoms of Hashimoto's. In the beginning, when we were doing this, it didn't matter what the lab test said because we knew they were here, we knew they had a problem, and we would treat for it. The ranges are still all over the place, so you have been told you're normal. The ranges that are used in our office, and I believe this is correct, I think at the Mayo Clinic also, the range for Hashimoto's is 0 to 9 for the thyroglobulin antibodies, so I don't know if your range is correct because there's a hospital here in town. I'm in Reno, Nevada. We have 5 or 6 hospitals here, 4 or 5 hospitals, and they all have different ranges. One of them has a range of 0 to 9. I won't say they all have different ranges. One of them has a range of 0 to 9. Another one has a range of 0 to 24, and another one has a range. And the other ones have ranges of 0 to 32. So all those people who have a number that is between 9 and 32 are being told that they're normal, and they're not. We treat patients from all over the world. So I've had the opportunity to look at labs from Belgium, where I believe the range there is 0 to 4. And then there's another country in Europe, maybe it was Belgium, that's 0 to 5, but it's either Belgium and France or vice versa. So in their world, it's that. I saw one the other day from Spain, and Spain was using 0 to 60. So you can see the different, how you could be told that you're normal, first of all, and you're not. So now let's just say they're using the range of 0 to 9, like they should be. Let's just say they're using that range, and you're 25, and you're a 5. So in this country, they would say, okay, you don't have it. Would I stop believing that you have Hashimoto's? If you filled out our assessment form and you had 15 out of 20 symptoms of it, the answer is no. And here's why. And I go back to the understanding of the evolution of autoimmunity. Frequently, I have patients come in here and they say, my doctor took an ANA test, which is anti-nuclear antibody test for autoimmunity in general. And they'll say, and it came back positive. But he told me that doesn't really mean I have it. And to which my answer is usually, well, then why did he run the test? It's like, it can't, what, if he's not going to use the data when it comes back that you have it, okay? And the reason for that is then very next day, that person could go in and do the same test and it could become normal, because the test being positive is based on the amount of antibodies. Antibodies are the little parts of the immune system that tag your tissues, that tell your immune system that it can attack this tissue. And it's dependent on the availability of those antibodies. Now, if you, what would flare up antibodies? If let's say you have celiac and you eat pizza. Celiac is a gluten sensitivity, or it's actually gluten, an autoimmune response. So now you eat pizza, which has gluten in it. You go out and you go to an Italian restaurant and you have side piece of pasta and you have gluten, and you wash it all down with a nice big beer, all of which has gluten in it. You're not only going to feel terrible, and you're going to be on the toilet for 3 days, but you're going to go in the next day and your antibodies are going to be positive. But let's say you are celiac and you haven't eaten any of that for years, no gluten at all. You're going to go in and get a test. It's going to be, potentially, it's going to be normal. And I have celiac, and I do have Hashimoto's, and I've had a normal test very recently, because I don't eat any of that stuff, and I haven't eaten for ages, so my antibodies aren't available. And I'm not anti-medicine, but it kind of hasn't sunk into the medical field yet that once you get a positive ANA, once you get a positive antibody test for thyroid, it's always positive. You have Hashimoto's. Vice versa, if you have a negative test, and you suspect the person has Hashimoto's because they have all the symptoms, it's probably wise to do the test a number of times before you tell the person that they're normal, or have that person load up with something that's going to flare up their immune system. And usually that's either going to be like gluten or just junk in general, just bad food in general, and then take the test. So again, the answer is no. Just because your test came up normal, it does not mean that you can exclude yourself as having Hashimoto's. So that's the really, really good question of the week. And we'll be back again next week with the answer to another one of your questions. Thank you for continuing to send the questions in, and hope these answers are sufficient, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you again next week.